welcome back to the Mike Small podcast show where we talk about all kinds of stuff, including cybersecurity. I have one of my good friends, Ethan, on here to just chat about some stuff. He's like a last minute guest and he's so nice to hop on here and chat. Welcome, Ethan.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, his voice sounds so crisp. He's got a mic. It took some trial and error to get something actually working for him. So, yeah, you've been in cybersecurity how long now, would you say?
Since 2018.
2018. Okay.
Yep. So what, 7 years now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a long time. We're getting up there, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a minute.
So what kind of things have you done? So you've worked in a SOC. What other kinds of things? Is that kind of where you hang your hat mostly?
I'd say mostly. I guess I've done a little bit of everything on the blue side. Some incident response, triage stuff, of course. Doing detection engineering, some threat hunting, some leadership stuff that isn't so much fun.
Yeah.
But then a very short period of time, I was doing some pen test stuff. It was more like a insider threat emulation than
Hmm.
actually any kind of cool hacky stuff. But some experience doing that.
Yeah, sounds fun. Sounds like a lot of the cool people kind of go all over. I mean, that's been my career, but it keeps things interesting too.
Yeah,
Like,
I think it's good. It changes perspective, right? I think just getting a little bit of experience, building certain kind of attack chains or whatever, really helps you out on blue side. Kind of helps you
Mhm.
know what to look for, what kind of stuff you want to detect. I think it's super helpful for people to move around.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's why I like hopping around between offensive and defensive. Like you see it from a whole different perspective. You bring all those lessons learned with you and reshape what you're doing. Because it could even be something as simple like, I don't know, Kerberos roasting. Like maybe when you first utilize the technique, you're just, clicking and going with um, in packet or something stupid,
Yeah.
and then you start rewriting the Python code to give it a slightly different signature because you're used to investigating it and you want to make it present differently. So it's kind of fun to have those perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, especially as like firewalls get better and better, man, they are
Hmm.
sniffing out in packets so fast now. You pretty much have to rewrite every tool that you're going to use.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the best part too. That's what I've learned probably over the last few years that it's just good to go custom one and
Yeah.
then to be as simple as possible. Don't do any of this goofy like a process injection or whatever. Like the more sneaky you try to be, the easier it's going to catch you. The better you can
Yeah.
just like blend in, you're golden.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all that sneaky stuff. I mean, there are detections that live there that don't ever fire. So when they do, they're a big deal. But there's a lot of stuff. Just blend in. Just act like an admin, and most of the time you could probably get away with it. Just looks
Yeah.
normal.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's kind of like even as I pen test over the last few years, it's just been normal. Like went away from actually doing shells because I don't hardly ever need a proper shell, like using Cobalt Strike or something
Yeah.
like that, to just RDP everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
there's no need. Get credentials, RDP, good to go.
Yeah. I think that like Cobalt Strike can be useful just for getting that access, but after that, I mean, I think it's a lot more beneficial for you to use some of the built-in tools to kind of move around and see what's actually there. What kind of things are in the environment that you have access to.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even need it to get access. I mean, unless you're doing like phishing or something and you're trying to bundle that in there. But if you're just like starting assumed breach and you're just in the network, just customize some of those exploits and nothing gets caught.
Yeah.
It's amazing. All right, so I have a big question for you. How does it
Okay.
feel to be a legend?
A legend. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say I'm a legend.
That's what Try Hack Me says.
Yeah. That's just time, man. That's just doing a little bit here and there forever.
Yeah, it says legend. And I want you to know you're top 1% right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you're ranked
I bet
10,757.
that's not very good.
You know what I'm ranked?
What are you ranked?
154,922.
It's because we did Try Hack Me a few years ago now. It's probably like 2020 or something when we were doing the. It was some kind of holiday challenge that they were doing.
Mm-hmm. The advent of cyber, I think, is what it was.
Yeah, that's what it was. And we did
Mm.
some of that and got fed up with when they got to like radio stuff.
Yeah. Oh no, it wasn't advent of cyber. We were doing the Sans. Wasn't it the
We did
Sans one?
both.
Oh, the holiday hack
Oh,
challenge is what I'm thinking.
that might have been the one with the radio stuff though. It was one of those, and it just didn't really have our interest.
Yeah. Yeah, like I really haven't gotten on this at all. Like the only reason I get on this now is because it's an easy way to like stream and show people what to do because it's there. I don't have to rebuild like build anything. I
Yeah,
just fumble my way through it and talk about what's on my mind. Makes it easy.
yeah. I'm not on there very much. Every once in a while, I'll check in, especially if something new comes out and you want a quick way to test it without setting up your lab or something.
Yeah, that's
It can
actually
be
a really
good for
good
that.
point. Yeah, I've used that a lot, especially some of those new exploits that come out. They'll do a
Yeah.
room and you can just play around with it, grab logs or whatever you need to.
Yep. I mean, they give you a lot of freedom um, in the space that's provided. But yeah, I think that's the best thing. I think the best example of that was when the Log4j came out. They had a room up like in a week, and I
Hmm.
recommended that everybody who I worked with go and hop on and do that. Just because being able to see it, I mean, you can read so many reports about it, but to be able to actually do the attack and see the actual artifacts and stuff, that's very beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a really good example. And then anything with Active Directory, it's great
Oh
for
yeah,
because it's such a pain to set that up from scratch. I mean, I could probably like get Sean, hey Sean, stand one up, but
I mean,
you know,
there's some good ones. There's that Game of Thrones themed one
oh, I hadn't
that's
seen
on
that one.
GitHub. Yeah, I could send it. I could send it to you. Where basically it's already all built out with a bunch
Mm.
of vulnerabilities pre-set up. So all you basically do is it's kind of like setting up like Flare. You basically just run a script and it sets everything up for you.
Uh,
Because I mean, I'm the same. I have a little Active Directory, little like hunt network I have, but setting everything up, accounts to be vulnerable, and setting up different kinds of service accounts and stuff. It's just that's so much work, and I really don't care to be a good like AD admin.
yeah, I was telling someone today, I was talking to, they were asking like, how does someone get into penetration testing? I was like, well, there's certain things you don't have to do. There's no like one pathway
Yeah,
where a lot of people think, oh, I need to do Linux Plus and then Windows admin certification. It's like, no, no, you don't. Like, there's a really small portion of that material that you really have to know. And you can just learn that really quickly and then learn everything else on the fly.
yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely the new way to do it. Like a lot of the older guys, they all came from being admins, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And so when you don't know how to do something that's like admin related, they just kind of lose their mind. But it's not necessary really anymore. I think it's good to know, but I think it's kind of a use case, right? If something comes up, you can go learn it, but you don't need to, be a certified admin to actually become a pen tester.
Yeah. I mean, especially with like ChatGPT now, like it's so
Yeah. Oh yeah.
useful for stuff like that. Like, all right, tell me what I need to know about how this stuff works. Summarize it for me. Now, like obviously it's not going to be 100%, but it's gotten so much better over the last 2 years. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great tool to have, right? Like I love it I use it a lot for like blue team stuff because Windows is terrible about documenting like
Hmm.
different kind of event IDs, like especially when you get to like the system stuff,
Hmm.
the application stuff. They don't document any of that. They're pretty good about security, but just having that, you could just ask Chat GPT to help you find certain resources, certain event IDs to look for. If you're building a detection or something, it's super helpful for that, and also gathering, good examples of what adversaries have done for certain kind of TTPs or something. That's what I use it a lot for, and also writing my wikis for me because I don't have time for that.
But it's really good at explaining techniques as well, especially if they're really complex attack chains, like multiple exploits require to do the full execution.
Hmm.
I've been utilizing it for some stuff. I forgot what specific software I was targeting, but there was like an exploit. I was like pretty sure I could utilize it. It wasn't working. This example wasn't working, but it was giving me signs like with some tweaking I could get it to work. And well, one, it started rebelling and saying I can't help you like be bad, basically. And then I was like, well, talk me through this. I'm trying to defend the network and
Yeah.
understand this exploit. So how might an attacker do this and what will it look like? And then it started telling me how to do it. And then I could slowly like work on the POC, like modify the POC. And I didn't get a full one working, but I got a partial one working with just by talking to it and having it like
Yeah.
shape it, which was pretty cool because
That is cool.
that was the first pen test I've actually utilized like arm in arm with AI. Like it was giving me some BS, and obviously my experience was able to like, that sounds dumb. That's not going to work. But like using it to augment my capability and hone in on stuff much quicker. So it's pretty cool. And I was able to find some stuff that I may not have found in time because, pen
Yeah.
testing is like, how fast can you digest all this data you're pulling, basically?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean that's where AI is super beneficial, right? It's just going through large amounts of resources for you. Because I mean, you
Hmm.
don't have time to do that. I mean, you could do massive scans, and you're not gonna have time to go look at every single system that you scan to see what's open and available. Like that kind of stuff would be very useful for.
Yeah.
Or
I
those
mean, hey,
massive Windows enumeration scripts that are out there.
Windows, Linux. I actually never even use those in a real pen test ever.
No, I
Mm-mm.
mean,
Don't need to. I mean, the same tricks work all the time. So,
yeah, that's fair.
yeah, you're like Prince Spooler, still a thing.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah,
Well, I mean, there's a lot of prevest techniques like that, and it's just like, yeah, go for it. Or like the other fun trick I like to do is just look for if I get credentials, and I'll usually get them through like Ella. Geez, my brain's not working. Like using responder.
yeah.
One of those techniques, get them and then crack the hash, or that's probably the most often way. And then password guessing sometimes as well, like spraying. And then once I get credentials, spraying those to see where I have local admin out on the network, and then usually if I got like maybe four accounts, I'll have one with local admin somewhere, and then I just dump credentials from memory and off to the races. Good to go.
Do you use Bloodhound?
Sometimes I used to use it a lot more than I do now because I just have like do the local admin, and then with those creds, I can usually figure out how to escalate to the DC without
Hmm.
having to use Bloodhound. But if I'm struggling, then I may utilize Bloodhound or Crack Map, CRM or
Yeah,
what is it? CME. There you go.
yep.
Um,
Crack my exec.
yeah, it does a really good job of spraying credentials. I hate the output, but it's really quick in terms of spraying specific commands. Like shares is another one I like to target as well. Um, I find all kinds of stuff in environments like backups of servers and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like
if it,
once, yeah.
I was
Uh,
gonna say that there's a shares are a gold mine, right? Like there's a bunch of like we've experienced like pulling a bunch of like VMs or servers that they stood down and stuff, and you can open this up a 7-zip. You don't need anything special. They aren't
mm,
secure in any kind of way, and you can pull anything and anything off of those old systems or any kind of backups that they have available.
yeah. And then there's some fun attack paths I'd like to use, and I haven't because I typically don't have time. Like replacing the executable with like a
Yeah,
Trojanized version or something like that. Or um, there's some other fun little tricks you can do to force people to authenticate with you from shares as well. So like I think shortcuts are one, and then there's or it's is it link files or shortcuts? I forget which one it is, but you can force them to authenticate to you and get credentials and maybe do like a NTLM relay or something like that.
yeah. You can do that too with like the web dev server too, can't you?
Yeah, but I don't really see a ton of web dev servers usually. Yeah. Oh, here's a fun one. Have you ever seen the printers? So one of my favorite tricks I've done is do a lot of times I'll have administrator credentials saved in there, and then I'll have them authenticate to me. Like I'll change where they're putting the credentials, and then NTLM relay those credentials to a system and get local admin.
Really? No, I haven't done
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I did another weird one. I forgot what it was. I ended up having to get remote access to the console via like the print like web server, and then I don't remember exactly what I did, and I leveraged that to get plain text credentials somehow, and I forgot what it was. I was like, oh, this is such a nifty trick. I never thought of that. Yeah, printers. I love printers.
Printers are a nightmare.
Yeah, and they're so crappy. Like they're just not designed well.
No, they're not. It's amazing that they still are designed the same way. They're so old.
Yeah, it's like they're built on like 90s software, all of them, even the new
Yeah.
ones.
Why hasn't it got better? I mean, they've been a prime target for 15 years at least.
Hmm.
Probably before that, but
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't know. That seems kind of lazy.
the old ones are even worse. Like I had one where I forgot, I think it was some utility company or something, or a law firm. I don't remember which one. One of them had like a really old one, and I was able to basically do a PCAP capture, but of the print jobs, and actually look at the print jobs themselves from the capture.
Yeah.
Didn't sound that crazy, but I was able to get like invoices, credit card numbers, all kind of stuff. I just set the sucker to capture for like 12 hours, and I was like, oh, look what I got.
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool. Yeah, we've done that. I've not really monitored, but we've definitely grabbed like old jobs. Like, because what we're doing is just proving that you can, right? And those kind of environments, a lot of sensitive data goes out over those printers, so anybody really getting access to that can see pretty much everything.
Yeah, there's supposed to be some tricks. I wish I had more time to dig into it where you can like dump the memory of those printers. There's a bunch of like random exploits for it. Because then you could just dump credentials, and then like network credentials, and then
Hmm.
utilize them. But yeah, there's supposed to be a way to be able to access the memory and then parse stuff out of memory. I just have yet to do it. Have you seen anything like that before?
No, no.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like actual exploit kits for it. So like Metasploit, but for printers themselves. So it's like not a standalone. The problem is that the printers are just like fragile, in that like they're basically you're just screwing with the firmware in a lot of cases. So you mess something up, the customer's not going to be very happy.
Yeah, yeah. That's what we didn't do much with printers for that reason. A lot of those sensitive systems weren't really allowed to mess around with. You know that, and then the big one's Exchange. You don't really want to
Mm.
touch anything Exchange because it's um, very fragile and has to work with everything in very complicated ways. But dude,
Yep.
every Exchange server is your route to a DA.
Yep.
I'm telling every single one I've seen.
I like the old trick where, well, it's not old trick, but like the old kind of habit where people were like backdooring Exchange servers, throwing up to like the web shells, like China
Hmm.
Chopper or something like that. Like that was a cool thing to see for a while. Yeah, I don't think I've backdoored any Exchange servers before. I don't really typically do that. Like recently, I backdoored like conference equipment. Like they just had default passwords, and I just loaded a Metasploit shell on there
Yeah.
because there's no AV. So I was like, yeah, whatever, quick and dirty. And then I was just launching attacks through the the conference equipment. They didn't see
Jeez.
anything. They're like, yeah, we didn't see anything. I was like, well, I've told you to fix this for, last I don't know how many years. So I just wanted to show you what happens if an
Yeah.
attacker tries to use them.
Yeah. I mean, we've noticed a lot with like the virtual desktops. Yeah, you could do anything. Yeah, that's a lot of our recommendations because a lot of places are trying to pivot to that kind of environment, right? That's what they want their people to work with. But
Yeah, it's disposable. Makes sense.
yeah, and that's what from like the engineering perspective, like they've always said that we don't want to put tools on there because every time it's going to log the IPs and the host and the users are going to be different. I'm like, if I'm looking at logs, I don't care about that. We just care what's happening. We can kind of piece things together, and it's just a mindset that's not really geared towards security from the engineers that set that stuff up.
Yeah. I mean, really, you just need a source of truth of what is the state at this specific time that your event happened and you're golden. Then
Yeah,
just ship the logs. You're good to go. Yeah. Yeah, engineers are different. I've been having more experience with them. They just look at stuff differently, right? They're more
they
about
do.
like not really security minded. They're more like how is this gonna like upkeep maintenance wise? Like it's gonna be a pain.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a. I mean, we kind of had a good example of that where we were trying to set up a little elastic stack, and the engineers were adamant about setting the time as the index time. And all security guys are like, no, I want event time. I don't care
Hmm.
about index time. It's totally different worlds, man. I feel like at least in my experience, it hasn't really gotten better. I think the engineers they're aware of it, and they'll work with you, but they still don't really see the world through that lens. You kind of have to hold them hand in hand, and that's why something like a real legit security engineer is so important nowadays.
Yeah, I mean they are worth their weight in gold. That's why companies charge so much
Yep.
when they're doing that as a consultant, which, go for it. Like there
Yeah.
aren't a lot of people that speak that language.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, right? A lot of those old guys, they were admins and then they got into security, and now guys are just coming straight into security. So having somebody that can kind of bridge the gap between those kind of guys and the admin engineer kind of guys is really, really valuable.
Yeah. Well, those just hybrid roles in general are great. I never realized until I did Purple Team stuff, like what the benefit is of having a designated team that is supposed to look at the world from those two different perspectives, and kind of have the free reign to do what they need to do to either identify and solve gaps or help educate one side or the other, or just speak, like act as the referee between the two
Yeah.
sides in general.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something a lot of people miss because I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to, well, do purple team and it can kind of be like a part time job for somebody, but then you don't really get the cover that you need there. It doesn't really get the attention to really make it beneficial, right? I mean, you could do some ops every once in a while, but unless you really have a focused team on that, you're really not going to get the full benefit of actually ensuring that you can do cool stuff like some actual adversary emulation, check what kind of detections you have in place, walk the blue side through different kinds of IR, you know, test cases or whatever it may be. You don't really get that with a part-time purple team.
Yeah, then it's almost like just trusted self. Okay, like this guy's kind of read in on what's going on, and or they're just quickly doing something, but they're more concerned about their day-to-day job versus this is, like you said, their full-time gig. They get to focus on select problems with all
Yeah,
their mental capacity.
yeah. I mean, what they have to deliver on their KPI somehow, and purple team usually isn't on there.
Metrics.
Yeah,
Womp womp. That's actually been an interesting thing too. Like I've had to start thinking more like a manager in like terms of metrics and KPIs. It is an interesting world. Like, what is a good metric for purple team? Like it's so tough and
yes,
almost obscure in a way.
it is.
But like even with like pen test is easy, right? How many findings do you have?
Mm-hmm.
SOC, some people could say it's easy because you're just like how many detections do you close out? Okay, not the best obviously, but if you had to, you could just do that. Um, but yeah, purple is like, well, I don't know. Like, how many times did I talk to someone? I don't know.
Yeah, that's something we're starting to talk about that now, trying to come up with actual like detections for, well, sorry, some actual metrics for like how important is it to actually have detection engineers, like where you talk to somebody in cybersecurity and like, yeah, it's important, but actually like trying to quantify that's difficult, right? And so there's crazy ideas about everything from basic whitelisting to
Mm.
record what how many alerts are happening before. Okay, here's the action that happened that whitelisted stuff, and here's the events after. Right, just building out that kind of a feedback. It's not easy. It's not.
Yeah.
It can, but it's super beneficial.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to do, and that's something we're starting to now get into more, and that's always a fun time.
You could almost do like with that, I was just thinking while you were talking, like you could almost tie it to money where if you have like a cost estimate of like minutes per dollars like an analyst is working and you say, okay, well
Yeah,
we trimmed it down from 100 a week to 5. And then
yeah,
so now you have like 95 times what's the average length it takes them to analyze it times dollar amount. Boom, we saved the company, I don't know, $10,000 a week or something, whatever.
yeah. And that's typically I always try to associate it back with man hours,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's always complaining about how busy they are.
Mm.
So if I can build a metric that actually shows, well, if we do it this way, I can save you 80 man hours a week or something. That seems to be the language of love for leadership.
Yeah. Well,
But I
that's the
mean, of
language of
course,
love for your SOC people too. They're always like, I don't have enough time to study or train or do projects because I'm just closing out detections.
yeah,
I like how you put that. That's their love language.
it is, dude. They love it, and it's good. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like a SOC analyst shouldn't be just closing alerts all the time because there's a lot of opportunities for them to start doing threat hunting or learning stuff, right? To add or working on improving, whether it's like their IR documentation or whatever platform that they're going to use. Like that stuff's always terrible.
Mhm.
So fixing that kind of stuff's really important. And if they're closing out 300 alerts a day, don't really have time for all that, and they just whine.
Yep, they definitely whine. It's it's such a problem, and it's the age-old problem of how do we get our SOC to level up one, right? That's a problem in itself, but how do we motivate them, like keep them happy where they want to do all these things? And it's just so tough. No matter what SOC you go into, everyone looks beat down,
Yeah,
complains, hates life, and it's like, well, how do we flip that on its head where like if you go to a really good pen test team, they love life,
yeah,
an
they do.
offensive team, and how do
Yeah,
we turn the sock into that? Like that's in my mind, that's a question I'd love to solve.
yeah, and it's tough too because like the sock, that's at the end of the day, that's really what you're selling, right? Like
Mm.
if you're a sock for hire, right, or a MSSP or whatever, right? That's what you're selling. You're selling that 24-hour support, and that's those guys. But it's a tough battle. I think things are getting a lot better on the detection side. Whether leaderships and those kind of C-suite people want to pay for actual good sim tools and
Mm.
SOARs so they can automate that stuff and then put the people in place to actually build that stuff out who actually understand operations. You can really start cutting a lot of the noise out for the floor and start saving a lot of man hours for them with a lot of the new stuff that's available. But it's a big commitment, right? Everybody just wants to go use Elastic because it's free. But there are a lot better options out there. I'll say.
Yeah, a
Um,
lot of people don't realize that with the free stuff. Like, sure, it's free upfront cost, but maintenance wise, long term cost, it's going to creep up to what you'd be paying for regardless.
oh yeah, absolutely. And I'd say just I pick on Elastic a lot, but just like man hours that it requires to use it, right? Like you can go and you can use your logs and go through your logs in Elastic, but then if you want to build a dashboard, you have to go to another page. That
Hmm.
might be a different query language, or you have to go build a visualization on another page, and that might be another query language. It's a lot of time, um,
Hmm.
and that does impact your people, and it does really impact, I guess, how mature your organization can get, because that's hard to automate. That's hard to kind of build stuff out to provide good coverage.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot. I mean, a lot of these tools are, and I think that's where the socks are kind of going, where the minimum level to ride that ride as an analyst is getting higher and higher, which means the complexity is getting higher and higher,
Yeah,
which means analysts are having to work, or future analysts are having to work harder in order to even break in. Like, back when we worked together, like doing it, like even around that time, interviews were like, oh, okay, so you can just reiterate stuff from the Sec Plus, like just memorize that stuff, you're good to go, and you have the Sec Plus. Great, you're a shoe in. Now it's like, nope, Sec Plus, CYSA, something. You need a handful.
yeah.
You need to be able to talk through IR procedures, and yeah, I mean it's crazy.
I mean, I feel like that's a part of a natural progression, right? As the industry's grown and got more popular, more people have kind of flooded, into cybersecurity. Um, so the bar is naturally going to raise, but I feel like it. I mean, maybe it's a little different from what you're saying, but like there's still a lot of whining about not having enough people to hire. Right?
Yeah,
Nobody wants to come into work anymore. But I mean, the qualifications have kind of gone through the roof a little bit.
yeah. No, I mean it's yes and no. Like with all that, like yeah, I've seen that as well, but I've also seen like you get people who have all the qualifications and you hire them and they don't want to do anything. They're not innovative. They just want to sit there and do their
Yeah,
job. But you really need, well, one, you need people who can hold it down, but you also need people who can innovate and aren't happy with the status quo and can help move things along because, the brutal truth is that adversaries aren't slowing down. Technology isn't
hmm
slowing down. So if you're not progressing the organization technology or ability to defend, you're already getting behind. It's almost like inflation, like technology
Oh
inflation.
yeah. So I mean, do you think that part of the problem there is, so as soon as you get on the sock, everybody around you is trying to get off the sock floor.
Hmm.
They're trying to go get into other stuff, whether it's like threat hunting or intel or detection engineering or purple teaming or pen testing. Everyone in that environment is trying to get away from being in that environment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what was your question? Was that your question? Do I agree? Yes, I agree.
It's just, I
No,
mean,
I
I
mean,
think
it's
that
tough.
that's
It's
the
a
biggest
brutal
thing that
lifestyle sitting in the
it
sock.
is.
Yeah.
But like that can save people a lot of time, right? You don't need as many people digging through the ditches to, all these bad alerts trying to figure out what's happening. And then that kind of should open it up for, more threat hunting, right? Where you can build out some really cool stuff. About like all the risk based alerting in there is awesome. So you can, build out cool dashboards looking at how everything's kind of lining up, what this user's doing over this amount of time or whatever. And I think that naturally is kind of where the SOC should expand to, is that environment where they're being a little bit more proactive. It's kind of, I guess it's more like unstructured hunts, right? More like a data driven hunt. But I think they can get so much more coverage doing that, look at so much more stuff, so much things that wouldn't normally get really any attention because they're just closing out alerts of admins installing stuff in boxes.
Now, here's a question. Do you think as soon as you get rid of, like, say you cut these, let's say you have 300 a day, right? Since you brought that up, and you cut
Yep.
it down to maybe 50 a day, do you think you'll automatically see an improvement in your SOC's ability, like your analysts themselves going out and doing additional stuff? Or do you think that there's going to be some dwell time between getting them in that position and them flourishing in that position, like in terms of building a culture to support that, or whatever it is to make them feel like they can go out and do those types of
Yeah.
hunts?
I think it really comes from the leadership, right? Because I think if a SOC has 300 alerts a day and then next week everything's down to like 50, they're probably going to think something's broken,
Oh yeah, of
and
course.
then oh yeah, and then they're probably just going to sit around and wait for the flood, right?
Hmm.
I mean, that's their job. Their job is to close things and turn lights green, and so they're just going to kind of wait. That's where it needs to be more of like a leadership driven change, right? Like you
Hmm.
said, it needs to be like a cultural change where, hey, we're like, be cognizant of what's happening on the back end with your sim and your detection engineering team or whatever. And know, hey, we're starting to throttle down these alerts. You're going to see a few hundred less this week. Um, we want to start doing some extra stuff. Let's start getting the threat hunting, or even if you go and sit with the detection engineers and start building dashboards with them or whatever, right? Like just starting to get more involved, or maybe you help out with Intel, right? Or maybe Intel's tracking a certain APT or something, and they have a cool list of um, TTPs that these guys do, and they want to start hunting in your environment for that stuff. Well, you can help them do that now. But I
Yeah,
think
some
it
of that
definitely has
cross
to come from
training.
leadership. Yeah, that's what it needs to come from leadership. Leadership needs to be aware of those changes. They need to have innovation and be ready to actually make being on the slot sock a good job.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's kind of looked at as slumming almost, or like, I mean, I look at it as the infantry of cybersecurity, since that's
It
my
is.
background, where 90% of the time it's not glorious whatsoever. And then, a small percentage are actually doing cool stuff like a real incident
Yeah.
or whatever, but it's just a slog, majority of the time, unfortunately, and you're just trying to stay focused and alert.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know. I get it. It's tough, but I think it's important to do. I mean, that's what I think. A lot of places are um, doing pretty good things with like the different uh, like tiered systems, for analysts.
Hmm.
But I think that, again, there needs to be like a noticeable shift. Like at some point, you don't need 8 guys sitting there monitoring 20,000 hosts or whatever, right? I mean, you should be able to pivot those guys up to go do cool stuff at like malware, right? Go assist with other stuff we talked about, intel and threat hunting and stuff. There needs to be more flexibility on the SOC, I think,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah,
that's I mostly associate that with poor leadership, but that might be my experience.
it may be. Well, listen, thanks, Ethan. I have to hop over to a stream, but I think, thank you for hopping on and chatting. We'll have to chat next time for a whole hour. We only hit like 30 minutes. Unfortunately, we had some issues with getting him on here. Stupid Riverside. But yeah, I'd like to have you back on at some point. We can keep the conversation. I think it was a pretty cool conversation. A lot of good insight from veteran people in the industry. Hopefully, people learned a few things, or maybe it'll raise some questions for people to start thinking, hey, how can we make this experience better for our analysts?
Yeah. Well, I
Cool.
appreciate you having me anytime.
Yeah, man. All right. Take it easy. Go get some dinner, spend some time with the lady, and we'll see you next time.